guys, and welcome to our first grammar video for Spanish 3. This video will cover la gramática de Leccion Preliminar del libro Avancemos 3. We are going to spend a little bit longer on this video than a typical video you'll watch from me, as this is our introductory chapter and it's going to review concepts that you know. So all of this is repaso, review. If there's anything on here that you're like, ooh, this isn't quite repaso, señorita, just let me know and I will help you out. You can bring questions to me in class, you can post them here on YouTube or on our learning community. This is from Página 4. Remember, gustar, encantar, interesar. These are those verbs to say what you like, what you love, what you're interested in. So these come up a lot when you're basic introductions and meeting people. So, first things first is we need to know our indirect object pronouns. Those are me, te, le, nos, os, and les. These always precede the verb, and the verb ending has to agree with whatever is being discussed that is liked or disliked. Here I have some examples for you. Me gustan, notice I'm making it plural, because I'm saying las verduras, which are plural. I like vegetables. Since it's plural, my verb needs to be plural as well. However, if I'm talking about something that's singular, like el arte, te gusta, I will keep the singular, el arte, since my noun is singular. So those first two I was working with nouns. I can also say I like to do things. In this case, if I love or we love to camp, I'm going to use the infinitive. So notice when I have an infinitive, I use the singular form. Nos encanta acampar. We love to camp. Finalmente, a Victoria no le, since I'm talking about Victoria, that's the ella form, le interesan. This is plural and it has nothing to do with this. Victoria is one person. Remember, it has to do with the noun that follows. Los museos. Muy bien. Moving on to another concept that you guys know and are familiar with from Spanish 1, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is from Página 5. Remember all your regular verb endings. We have three types of verbs in Spanish: AR, ER, IR. First thing we have, and we studied, is our AR verb. So I taught you a little song rhyme to help you with that. What do you do to an AR verb? Take the AR, kick it to the curb. What do you do when that is done? O, as, a, amos, ais, an. So those are my verb endings for AR. ER verbs, pretty similar. Substitute the A for an E this time. So I have O, es, a, amos, es, en. IR verbs, I refer to these as kind of the copycat verbs. It's kind of like a little sibling that wants to be like their older sibling. So very similar to the ER, O, es, a. But these two forms here, they're going to be a little bit different, have their individuality. So the IR form on the nosotros form is imos. Those of you that study with me in St. Louis, you know we have imos. We have imos. Nosotros form means we. Imos. Good way to remember it. And is my vosotros form. Notice on all of these vosotros forms, I like to teach you these because if you go to Spain, you're going to hear that form. Notice the accent is on whatever type of verb it is. It's a helpful hint for you. All right, covering those. Remember, we also studied some present tense ones that were not so friendly and didn't follow those little patterns. Those were verbs like ser, which means to be, and there's also estar, which means to be. We'll go over those differences in a few slides later. So memorize these endings. They're totally irregular. Soy, eres, es, somos, soy, son. Estar is estoy, estás, está. Estamos, estáis, están. Finally, last but not least, we have the verb ir, which means to go. I refer to this as the which way do I go verb, because if you notice, we have these V's that start every single one of these. You can think of it like a fork in the road. Which way am I going to go, left or right? So that's my hint for that one. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. Kind of like the AR verbs, o, as, a, amos, ais, an, except I have that irregular Y. Alright, we also have some that are irregular only in the yo form. For example, conocer, conozco. Saber, sé. Dar, doy. Ver, veo. Hacer, these ones on the bottom row begin our go verbs. Hago. Poner, pongo. Salir, salgo. Traer, notice it's a go verb, but I have to keep that I. Traigo. All right, muy bien. Make sure you're familiar with those. That's from Página 9 del libro Avancemos. Stem changers in the present tense. Remember, we learned some of these in Spanish 1. We have our E to IE, O to UE changes, and we also have an E to I. An example of the E to IE change is the verb querer, which becomes quiero, quieres, quiere, quieren. We refer to these as boot verbs because that's where the stem change takes place. I'm not going to do anything with these two forms here. That nosotros and vosotros do not change. O to UE changes, puedo, puedes, puede, and pueden. Once again, I maintain my stem POD on the nosotros and vosotros form. Servir is simply an E to I stem change. So I have sirvo, sirves, sirve, and sirven. Remember, the no and the vo do not go. Servimos, servis. Excelente. Okay, moving on to some more irregularity fun. We have here a combo mambo. We have some boot verbs as well as irregular yo forms. So decir, tener, and venir are ones that follow that pattern. So these are irregular yo forms as well as stem changing boot verbs. Notice decir is an E to I change. So that takes effect actually in every single form of that boot shape. It's also a go verb. So I have digo, dices, dice, dicen. Remember, this is outside of the boot, so I don't stem change. Decimos, since it's an IR verb, and decis. Tener. Tener is unique because that E to IE, it actually doesn't happen in the yo form in this one. Same thing with the verb venir. Saying it just becomes vengo. So I maintain my stem, however, it's a go verb here, it's a go verb here. The rest of it, I have that E to IE change, so I have tienes, tiene, and tienen. Outside of the boot, I maintain my stem, ten, it's an ER verb, so it's hemos and es. Remember, venir's very similar. Vengo, vienes, viene, venimos, venís, vienen. All right, muy bien. Okay, this is a concept that's kind of tricky, saber and conocer. This is from Página 14. In Spanish, we have two forms of the verb to know. We use them in very different circumstances. Saber is more of our facts and info verb, where conocer is more referring to people and places. Remember, these are our two present tense verbs that have that irregular yo form. So we have sé and conozco. The rest of it conjugates like a regular ER verb. Saber, I'm going to use to talk about factual information, you know, and to also say you know how to do something. So some examples here would be, yo no sé cómo se llama la nueva estudiante. I don't know what the new student's name is. Ella sabe tocar la guitarra. She knows how to play the guitar. She has the ability or the know-how to do that. So remember, facts, information. Conocer, on the other hand, is when we want to say that we're familiar with a person, place, or thing. Or we can also talk about that first encounter or meeting someone for the first time. Conoces a Nueva York? I'm going to use conoces because I'm asking, are you familiar with that city? Also, I can use it with that meeting or first encounters. Quiero conocer a tu hermano. I would like to meet him or get to know him. Moving on, another challenging concept is our concept of ser versus estar, de página 15. We started this in Spanish 1, we practiced in Spanish 2. It's something that you're going to continue to develop over time. Remember, ser is our more permanent verb of to be, where estar is our temporary form. So ser is like things like origin, your personality traits, physical characteristics. It's things that are more permanent. For example, Rafael is de Panama. If he's from Panama, that's his origin. He could move to another place, but that's where he's from. It is what it is. Es alto y simpático. He's tall and nice. General characteristics and descriptions. Su padre es maestro. He's a teacher. So that's more permanent when I'm referring to someone's career. Estar, on the other hand, is our temporary. So this is typically locations, conditions, because those things change. We move from place to place, room to room. Our states of being change depending on what's happening around us. Carmen está en casa. Ella está enferma. She's at home. she is sick. I'm telling you her location and that she's not feeling well. Those things can change, so we're going to use estar. They're temporary. A couple little tricks to help you with these. I have an acronym that's kind of gross. It's SNOT-DIP, because seres humanos, human beings, are gross. So the C stands for characteristics, N for nationality, O origin, T time, D date, I is for identification, things we identify ourselves with, professions, and possessions. All of those circumstances is when we use ser. A more easier way, if you are like, I don't remember all that acronym, is if it's not about how you feel and where you are, you're probably going to use ser. So my rhyme is how you feel, where you are, always use the verb estar. Reflexives. This is something we're going to spend a lot of time in class on. Depending on which Spanish 2 class you took last year, you may have spent more or less time on this concept, so we will practice it more. Remember, reflexives are the verbs that we use when we're doing things either to ourselves or for ourselves, like brushing our teeth, getting dressed, all those things that we do. A lot of these are your daily routine kind of things. So in Spanish, all reflexive verbs are expressed with a reflexive pronoun. That's step 1 of these verbs. So notice this se at the end, it's going to actually move to the front. Me, te, se, nos, os, se. So we need to know our pronouns. The rest of it actually conjugates like whatever type of verb it is. So bañar, AR verb, o, as, a, amos, aisan. So like our present tense ARs. So the reflexive pronoun is always before a conjugated reflexive verb. Me lavo las manos antes de comer. Me, myself, I'm the one that washes my own hands. Me lavo. When I'm using a reflexive verb and it follows a conjugated verb, my pronoun, I have some flexibility. I can do it as this example reads, Los niños no quieren acostarse. The children don't want to go to bed. I can attach it at the end of my infinitive, or I have the flexibility to put it in front of that conjugated verb. Los niños no se quieren acostar. Unequal comparisons. Whenever I'm comparing differences between people and things, I will use comparatives. These are más que. So I can say más with an adjective, adverb, or noun. For example, estos camareros son más amables que aquellos. These waiters are nicer than. I'm comparing them. Menos que. So if I want to use menos que, this is when I'm saying less with an adjective, adverb, or noun. El supermercado tiene menos verduras que el mercado. So I'm comparing them, saying the supermarket has fewer vegetables than the market. I can also use adverbial phrases such as más que and menos que to describe things and compare things. So, me gusta la comida saludable más que la comida dulce. I like salty more than sweet. Or, yo como menos que tú. I eat less than you. Some other words to compare are words like mayor, older, menor, younger, mejor, better, and peor, worse. Our final one of the presentation we have is equal comparison. So comparing things as the same. So whenever I have things like I don't really have a difference, I like them the same, I'm going to use tan plus adjective or an adverb como. La tarta es tan sabrosa como el flan. The cake is just as tasty as the custard. Flan is a very typical Spanish thing. Tantos and tantas plus a noun and como. This is when I want to say as much or as many as. So for example, la sopa tiene tanta pimienta como sal. So the soup has just as much pepper as it has salt. Notice that this tanta is matching with my noun pimienta. Last but not least, I have tanto como. This is as much as. So cocino tanto como tú. I cook just as much as you do. Alright, muy bien, chicos. Remember, if I went too quickly through anything on here, if you have any questions, bring those to class, email me, message it on the community or on YouTube, and I'd be happy to help you out. Muchas gracias por su atención y estudia la gramática. Gracias.